with most of the players warming up, it's always great to see how animated Pep Guardiola is. And if you've watched some of the live training sessions in the past, you will have realized that this is not only because he's speaking to one of the top stars of the game, to Arjen Robben. He takes his time, and he's been seen in discussions as animated as this one with basically every player, even the youth players that are still eligible to play for the under-19s and do so. Pep Guardiola spends a lot of time with every individual player. Arjen Robben, who knows, maybe after the disappointing results with Holland, he needs a bit of a shoulder to cry on. They lost their first game, the first qualification round, by 2-1 against the Czech Republic. Now, in these last two games in the last 10 days, a 3-1 victory against Kazakhstan and a 2-0 defeat against Iceland. In that Group A, Iceland and the Czech Republic now on 9 points. Holland only on 3 after 3 games. So it certainly is a bit of an interesting qualification round so far, despite the fact that, of course, a lot of fans were disappointed to hear that some of the excitement seemed to have been gone, with 2 teams qualifying directly and a third going to a relegation game. But for most smaller nations, it's certainly an interesting qualification now, and it seems as if the big countries are making it more exciting. Who knows, maybe this man can benefit. Germany struggling in Group D. Maybe Joachim Löw will look for help from Sebastian Rode. David Alaba and Juan Bernat saying hello there to each other. David Alaba, he's quite happy with his team Austria. 7 points in Group First in their Group G. They drew their first game 1-1 against Sweden. They have Russia in the group, and that's what the table looks like. Austria on 7 points first, and then Russia and Sweden on a joint second position on 5 points. And Austria basically won the 2 games now that they had to win, a 2-1 against Moldova and a 1-0 against Montenegro. But Austria looking strong there. And Alaba, the star player, sportsman of the year in Austria, hoping that his team can achieve one of these rare moments when they qualify for a major tournament. Franck Ribéry retired from the French national team and has been training quite a bit with the team recently, but only started full team training a few days ago, excuse me. He seems to be in a great mood. Let's just hope that he can, well, who knows, he'll want to play on the weekend, that's for sure, but let's just hope that he can help Bayern Munich maybe in these next 3 weeks. 7 games coming up in the next 3 weeks for Bayern Munich. 7 important games, including a DFB Cup match in Hamburg, a knockout game there. The 2 Champions League games against Rome, home and away, and, well, maybe most notably the Bundesliga home match against Borussia Dortmund. Good to see the man on the left. Rafinha has recently been battling with some injuries as well, but he's fought his way back, used his national team break, as did Franck Ribéry. Of course, when we talk about good news and players returning from injury, we have to mention the bad news that, or the terrible news really, that came out of the team yesterday and today. Thiago fought so hard for his comeback and was very optimistic, even yesterday and the day before, that he can rejoin the team very, very shortly. Today we heard the very saddening, disappointing diagnosis that Thiago requires surgery again, surgery on his knee, and he'll be out for an indefinite amount of time. All the best from everyone here in Munich to Thiago. Apart from that midfielder, the midfield playmaker, most of Bayern Munich's injured players are back in training, at least. Of course, a few exceptions: Holger Badstuber, Javi Martinez and Bastian Schweinsteiger, to name but a few. But again, most players are, well, in the middle. In this case, it's 7 men outside. 1 touch of the ball. If you like, you can start counting here at Bayern Munich. Everything above 20 is considered a good run for the outside players. And bad spell for the inside defending players. Let's see how many this group can add. Flunky release, certainly not one to lose the ball very often during these exercises usually.
Eins, zwei, drei. 4, 5, 6. Ja, 2 noch. 4, was?
Vai, Johnny.
4, 5, 6.
Je dois te chercher à toi. Je sais. Oh!
what this exercise demands of the players.
Gute Pass. Gute Pass. Hey, behind on me. Hey. Okay. Super. Easy. Super Rafa. Super Rafa. Ven. Por delante del balón, por delante. Jugador por detrás del oponente. Ahí, perfecto. Ah, vale, vale, perdón. Okay.
So this is obviously purely a passing exercise which forces the players to move into the right position with and without possession. And you'll see, if you pay attention, or you'll hear more precisely, how involved Pep Guardiola is, how he praises the players individually and criticizes them. A lot of bravo and super calls here by Bayern Munich's Spanish coach. Seems to be happy, so far at least.
Now, Philip. Good. Now is go, David. Good. Der richtige Moment. David. Nicht laufen. Fußball ist spazieren. Ja, bravo, Ali. Now is go. Bravo, Frank. Das ist der Unterschied. You wechsel den Rhythmus für den Gegner. Good. Very good. That's okay. Now, hey, try possibility. The same. Okay. Second. Pass. I do control. Is behind them. Control behind them. I take. David is behind them. Okay. Try possibility. Take the. Okay. 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 Control in the moment. Super. Come. Okay. Come. Okay. Okay. Control. Up. Now. Super. Okay.
Football is decisions, what Pep Guardiola just said, and he's decided obviously to take this very serious indeed. So much for joking around with Ribéry and Robben. That's only before the training sessions. As soon as these exercises begin, Pep Guardiola is fully concentrated. And two things that we notice here again is how involved he is. He really comments on every pass. Was it good? Was it too sharp? Was it too slow? Was the movement right? Did the player move at the right moment and sprint into the right space, yes or no? So his involvement is, as always, very noticeable. And of course, in case you're not so familiar with Pep Guardiola and his way of training, the fact that everything he says is indeed in German. Occasionally on the pitch, when someone like Juan Bernat in the background runs past him and he has a few minutes or so for an individual one-on-one with a player, he'll revert to English or Spanish or what have you. But generally speaking, and this is the same for all coaches, regardless of where they come from, and all players, of course, the language on the pitch is strictly German.
Okay. Sehr gut, Rafa. Muy atento hasta las que no son tuyas. Sehr gut. Big pass für Pass. Hopp. The moment. Good. Super. Okay, Dante, no run too much. Go before. Ha ido demasiado rápido. Control. Super. Super, Hank. Okay. Okay. Sehr, sehr gut. Lange Bälle. Lange Bälle, Spiel. Lange Bälle, 2 Minuten, Spiel.
Danke. Lauf.
No.
Alaba and Ribéry, good friends in life and outstanding partners on the football pitch. As an amateur, as a hobby player, it makes you want to quit football playing immediately when you see how these guys hammer the ball back and forth, stop it so elegantly. Oh, this time he dropped the ball still. Franck Ribéry, I'd say already a bit of an icon at Bayern Munich. The fans can't wait for their crowd darling to return to the pitch. Unfortunately for Bayern Munich, he's only played one game this season so far. Immediately came on and immediately scored a goal against Stuttgart and was enthusiastically celebrated by the fans. That was the only game he played this season. The last game before that was the cup final in Berlin that gave Bayern Munich the double in the last season. Dearly missed from the Bayern team, not only because of his talent, but as you can see, his attitude on the pitch, his positive outlook, his dedication. For the fans, one of the most entertaining players probably to have ever played for this club, but of course also terribly efficient. And as you can see here in training, a diligent worker. Dante and Rafinha, I think, are the two Brazilian players passing the ball back and forth there as well. A bit of a break in between exercises here at Munich Siebener Street. Rafinha seems to have recovered well. Bit of a muscle injury put him out for a couple of days, but nowadays these players just keep working throughout the injury so that they don't lose too much of their endurance. Dante, another one of these players who seems to return to strength. I don't need to tell you that he had a pretty abysmal experience during the summer at a certain tournament in Brazil, but now it seems he's slowly returning to form. And speaking of returning to form, Pep Guardiola, I'd say nearly already famously said at the beginning of this season that it will take Bayern Munich up to the winter break to really reach their top form, their top level of play. I wonder what the Bundesliga competitors are thinking about that, considering that Bayern Munich is already the top of the Bundesliga table, 10 points ahead of Borussia Dortmund, 2 wins in 2 games in the Champions League. progress to the next cup round. It's going very well indeed for Bayern Munich, but of course Pep Guardiola's mantra, if you so will, is always keep improving. You've got to improve in every single game. Arjen Robben's one of the players who totally believes in that and repeats that all the time. The Bayern players know they're not quite ready as a team yet for the really big games, but then you don't need to be ready for the really big games at this point of the season. It's only October. The big games start when the Champions League knockout rounds start in February, not now. Still, so far, the team performances have left the Bayern fans with very little reason to complain.
Go, 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 Sinan! Go, Sinan!
Pep Guardiola, and you'll hear that throughout this training match, will tell his players exactly what to do. If you hear the name Zinan, that's an interesting young man who's been training with the team for a couple of weeks now. He joined Bayern Munich from Borussia Mönchengladbach at the beginning of the season. Very promising young German talent. Zinan Kurt is his name. You might have seen him play in the friendly game last Monday. Bayern Munich participated in against the Paulaner Dream 11, as it's called, a match against amateur players. Here he is in the middle of your screen, Zinan Kurt. In the last 10 days, he's been one of these young players who've not only been on the pitch to fill in for the pros, but he's been able to impress, I think, fans and teammates and coaches alike. Seems to be a very promising, talented young man, and it's quite obvious that Pep Guardiola pays very close attention to what he does. I'm not saying that Pep Guardiola doesn't pay attention to what everyone does, but it's conspicuous and has been very noticeable how Pep Guardiola has been talking specifically to this man, Zinan Kurt. So enjoy this training game. That's, of course, the best thing for a live training session here, and for the many, many hundreds of fans around the training pitch. Doesn't get a lot more exciting than this.
Ja, dat is. Zeit, rechts geht. Da, Janik. Mann! Geh!
Super flanka, super selber. Gut, Aus! Raus! Du, Stelling! Damit! Hey, what? Gut! Halt ihn! Langer Schiff vor, Janik! Raus! Gut gelebt! Ecke! Ja, langer! Frankie! Dai, bravo! Bravo!
Ja, goed. Geh, jongen, geh drauf!
Geh. Spiel sofort. Felix, der war frei vorne. Es guckt nach vorne. Wenn es nach vorne geht, guck nach vorne.
Ruhe!
Goed, jongen! Juan, tem que saltar lá atrás, né? Sai, jugando em punta. Fica esticando lá.
Gianni, Sinan, hier.
Go, Johnny! Lille. Ja, jongen, kom.
Geh, komm! Johnny, Johnny! Johnny, bitte, Johnny, Zeit!
Philipp! Come here, Frankie, before you go. Again, Johnny! Come here, Johnny! Good pass to Johnny. You got to hit the Gegner, brother. Go, Frankie! Good, Frankie.
Like in the last 2 weeks, it's a good mixture we're seeing here of youth and professional players. Philipp Lahm commented on that recently as well. You can see, again, there are a lot of youth players here with little to no experience in the Bundesliga, but then you have players like, again, Sinan Kurt, a great talent. You have Mitchell Weiser, who's been in the squad for a while. Also, Gianluca Godino, of course, maybe the most exciting, the hottest property in the Bayern team right now. Still only 17 years old and already with a couple Bundesliga games to his name. It keeps the training squad dynamic going. Notice too how vocal on the one hand these players are, how everyone tries to get involved in this game, how determined the players are to win, even though we haven't seen a goal yet. Leo Zingerle on the one side, Tom Starke on the other. So far have kept clean sheets here. Franck Ribéry, by the way, in case you're wondering, has a green shirt on. He's a free agent. He joins in any team in possession. But again, for the football players, for the club football players amongst you, you of course know this. It's another one of these popular exercises, and I think we nearly saw Franck Ribéry with a really rare moment there. A goal he scored with his head. He's done that once in the Bundesliga in his career so far. I honestly can't tell you how many he's headed past the goalkeeper in training. I assume a few more.
Bravo Dante! Bravo Dante! Verteidiger dieser! Es war Zeit,
Pep Guardiola praising Dante here for his defensive work, while we see flying challenges left, right and center. The speed and the ferocity of these, the intensity of these training games is what's a surprising time and again if you see these training sessions for the first time at least. Players extremely involved. And when you see this, it's no surprise that every once in a while you do hear from slight run-ins between players, not necessarily at Bayern Munich, but generally in pro teams. The players really use the opportunities here to do a good job for this man, for Pep Guardiola. And you can see Rafinha talking to a couple of youth players in the background. It's another great aspect of this Bayern squad. The team spirit is indeed, and not only image-wise, but it is indeed very good atmosphere within the team, very open. Xabi Alonso most recently commented on that, how maybe not surprised he was, but how pleasant it was for him to be integrated so well, how easy it was for him to adapt to the team going away from the sensational performances that he's shown so far, considering that it's a new team for him, but the human aspect, how easy it's been, how pleasant it's been for him at Bayern Munich. An average, I think, of 190 contacts per game. It's absolutely amazing statistics that Alonso has created for Bayern Munich so far. He is, together with Mario Götze, the player statistically so far who runs more than anyone else. I think 11.5 kilometers on average per game. These two work no less harder on the pitch. Philipp Lahm, who's slightly right of the centre, not in the holding midfield role anymore, and on the other side, on the far left on the wing, Franck Ribéry. But again, we unfortunately haven't seen much of him this season yet. Philipp Lahm, and you'll have to forgive me if you watched our last live training session, but it's still fairly fresh news for us at Bayern Munich, and so unusual to see Philipp Lahm on the training pitch here when the internationals are gone. Philipp Lahm commented on how he enjoyed it, how pleasant it was for him to train hard on the one hand during these qualifier breaks, but on the other hand, how it is so refreshing psychologically more than anything else to just be able to let go, to have a weekend off for once, to not have to think about the next goal, to not have to focus immediately on the next game. Take the German internationals. They played against Ireland last night, arrived here today, and have 2 days now basically only to prepare for the important Bundesliga home game against Werder Bremen. And, well, we had 7 games within 3 weeks leading up to this last national team break, and now coming up are again 7 games within 3 weeks. It is not only hard physical work that these players, particularly the successful top players of top European clubs, go through every year and every season, but it's also the fact, good save here by Leo Zingerle against Franck Ribéry, it's also the fact that these players never can just relax and rest. There's always a goal, there's always a task and a challenge ahead. And Philipp Lahm commented on how refreshing he finds that. This man would love to have more challenges, more tasks in his near future. He's got plenty of tasks and challenges ahead, but they're not particularly pleasant if you're a professional football player. His tasks are spin as many kilometers as possible on a bicycle, for instance. Not so much score goals or prevent the opposition from scoring.
Hey.
Next goal, 2-0 for the team in red, if I'm not mistaken. Goal scored by Gianluca Gaudino. Good to see Franck Ribéry winning some sprint duels here. That indicates that he's not only fit in terms of his fitness and endurance, but also fit in terms of his explosiveness, which is so important for his game. And again, the speed with which these training games are played is awe-inspiring, I think, for every non-professional football player. And it's interesting to see tactically how this is a blueprint for what we see during Bayern Munich games. And notice particularly when a team loses possession or when a team is trying to gain a possession, how fiercely they attack their opponents in great numbers. And always in these interruptions, Pep Guardiola singling out one or two players, telling them exactly what to expect. Xabi Alonso now on the receiving end of this little speech. Here's Sebastian Rode with a shot. The team in blue so far unable to score. This is Sinan Kurt. Looked like a bit of a foul here in midfield, but in these training games that's not necessarily taken too seriously. Usually the coaches pay very close attention to offsides. Foul, not so much. Rafinha past Xabi Alonso. Can we see the next goal? Here we go, offside goal against Franck Ribéry. And it's as if we're in a Bundesliga or Champions League game. Ribéry complaining to the linesman. In this case, I think Dominic Torrent. Here on the top of your screen. And Robin belting out his frustration. He should have been able to stop that ball, and he knows it. Robin. In Germany, you wouldn't call him a training world champion. It's a bit of an insult. Training world champions is a term used in Germany for people who excel in training and they never do really well in games. Arjen Robben, certainly a world champion in training, but also in Bundesliga and Champions League games. Xabi Alonso was the most recent teammate to comment on Robben, saying in his opinion Robben was the best man at the World Cup, and he also said it's simply unbelievable what Robben has shown on the pitch in the last couple of years. I think Bayern fans far and wide agree. But he's not the only one. I just saw David Alaba in possession. Good to see that Alaba has no health issues, is fit and ready. The legs of David Alaba, as Pep Guardiola repeats often, are so important for Bayern Munich. Sebastian Rode played for the German under-18s, under-19s, under-20s and under-21s. Quite a few games for all those youth teams. Now the 23-year-old waiting for a call from Joachim Löw. Part of the reason, of course, and understandably, why he transferred to Bayern Munich is to finally make it into the German national team. And considering what they did in the last couple of weeks, there should be one or two open positions, at least a chance to make it into that squad. Seems better than it was a while back. Here is Matthias Sammer. He watches every single training session. He's the sports director, so to speak. He's on the board at the club responsible for the sports department, which is, of course, the most important department. Sitting here next to Midi Benatia. Important influence in, well, German football throughout his active career. Then as a coach, youngest German championship coach with Borussia Dortmund, I think at the age of 34. Now an important figure at Bayern Munich who helps shape, and helped shape, this incredible squad, which has evolved within, well, 5-6 years from a serial winning champion and a DFB Cup winner, and a team which usually made it, let's say, to the knockout rounds of the Champions League and then maybe a round or two further. Now They've evolved into a serious candidate each year for the title. Again, I'm going back to the Xabi Alonso interviews because it was featured so prominently yesterday here. He said he believes his team can play for the title again. There are 5-6 teams that are real serious candidates for the Champions League title. Bayern Munich certainly one of them.
Si tus padres tienen un culo así y son negros y tobillitos así.
Tiene corto, bajo, eres rápido como la concha de una madre y tienes una poronga de medio metro. Y gana 10 palos al año. Te tocó Dios. Las cosas que no se aprenden.
Bravo, David! Nicht drehen, nicht drehen!
Gut, Chef.
Gut! Raus, 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 raus!
Bravo, Dan. Gut gemacht, Junge. Verteidiger dieser Flanke.
In the background, by the way, you can see the FCB Kids Club, and those young Bayern fans are continuously chanting the name of different players. David Alaba, I think, was the most recent one here. The FCB Kids Club has close to 30,000 members, which I believe is currently, or would currently be, the fourth biggest football club in terms of members in Germany. Gives you a bit of an idea just of how popular Bayern Munich is and of how many people regularly come and visit these training sessions. As a FCB Kids Club member, there's a locked-off section for these young fans, and the Bayern players are encouraged to make sure that several of them go there into that specific section there to sign autographs, and the kids usually do a good job calling for those players themselves. They'll shout for the stars until they come. Marcel Rode very involved, very active in this training game. We've heard a couple of Bravo Zepp calls here. Zepp is his nickname, interestingly enough. It is the Bavarian abbreviation of Sebastian, but it's not a new nickname, not a nickname that he received at Bayern Munich. But he certainly made quite an impression. Played a few games so far, despite the incredible competition in Bayern's midfield. And he's one of these players, the category tireless worker. Maybe not quite as elegant as these guys here, the Brazilians, Dante and Rafinha. And as always, very involved in the training games. That's also, as you know, of course, a man to look out for. Gianluca Gaudino, he certainly needs to work on his physique in the upcoming years or so, but Pep Guardiola says he brings everything to the table that you need in holding midfield or in a central midfield position. If Pep Guardiola says it, and I think that's the best thing you can expect to hear. There he is. Frank Ribéry nearly scored a goal here for Gaudino's team. But they're still waiting for their first goal, if I'm not mistaken. The team in blue has this firmly under control. If I'm not completely wrong, there are a lot more youth players on the team in red, which maybe explains why the team in blue is superior with order, with Alonso, Robben, Alaba, I've seen, and Mitchelweiser, who scores this beautiful little lob there against Tom Starke. Tom Starke has always been very, very motivated and a great guy, not only on the pitch but also off the pitch, but possibly even more motivated than usual this season. Of course, he was the number 2 goalkeeper for Bayern Munich last season. With the purchase of Pepe Reina, he moved into the number 3 spot, but now Pepe Reina is injured. Tom Starke is going to be on the bench in the upcoming weeks. Bit of a tragic moment there. Pepe Reina in his first game for Bayern Munich in the final of the Paulana Cup last Monday, a friendly game, not only in his first game but in his very first scene really for Bayern Munich in the game. A harmless shot that bounced a couple of times that he just wanted to shoot away. Pepe Reina sustained injury and will now be out, so Tom Starke, will see him back on the bench, unless I'm very mistaken, on Saturday against Bremen. Coming up in the next few weeks, and what these players here are preparing for, is another 7-match run within 3 weeks. Starts on Saturday with the home match, 3:30 in the Allianz Arena against Werder Bremen. Then, only 4 days later, Bayern Munich play in Rome, the 3rd Champions League game of the season, and can take another huge step towards qualifying for the knockout stages, following 2 1-0 victories in the first 2 Champions League games of the 2014-2015 season. Then the Bundesliga top game against, or in Gladbach against Borussia Mönchengladbach, currently 3rd in the Bundesliga table with a good start, and a lot of experts believe Gladbach, not only this season but in this and the upcoming seasons, can again play a very, very good role in German football. After that, the so-called second main round of the DFB Cup, Bayern Munich in Hamburg. Going by Hamburg's performances last season, you'd think it'd be a bit of a cakewalk, but Hamburg, of course, drew 0-0 against Bayern Munich this season already at home in Hamburg. So that's certainly not going to be an easy game. And then on November 1st, 6:30 Saturday, top game, of course, Bayern Munich against Borussia Dortmund. Currently already trailing Bayern by 10 points in the Bundesliga after only having collected 7 points in the first 7 league games. We'll see what the situation is then, but I dare say Bayern can take a small step towards winning the championship there as well, if we believe that Dortmund is the most serious contender for the title. That's on November 1st, November 5th. Then already the rematch, second game against Rome in the Champions League, this time, of course, at home in the Allianz Arena. And then this block of 7 competitive games within 3 weeks ends with an away game on November 8th in Frankfurt.
Second.